A pâté is a dip made from soaked nuts and seeds that are ground in the food processor and then flavored with pungent seasonings, such as onions, garlic, or fresh herbs. Pâtés are great dishes to make in advance on the weekend because you make it once and then you can use it in 5 different ways during the week. So they're really central to the raw food made easy concept. Make one dish and it becomes 5 different meals later on in the week. And I'm going to show you some different things you can do with pâtés a little bit later on in this DVD. Not Tuna Pâté is one of my favorites, and I want to show you how to make it. I'm going to go over to the food processor and get started. We'll begin with some soaked sunflower seeds and almonds. Add those to the food processor. This dish is called Not Tuna because it kind of looks like tuna salad when you finish with it. It tastes a little bit like it too. This is going to be a really filling dish. That's one thing I love about pâtés. If you ever get tired of salads and feel like you need something that's going to stick to your ribs a little bit more, pâtés really do the trick. I'll add just a little bit of water to this mixture, just enough to make it easy to process. And then we'll go ahead and grind this to a smooth consistency. With your food processor, you need to stop periodically and scrape it down with a spatula, just to get everything evenly processed. This is a 7-cup machine, which is a really nice size for just 1 or 2 people, or if you're just making a smaller batch of food. If you routinely prepare large amounts of food, you might want to go a little bit larger with an 11 or a 14 cup. I'll just continue processing. You can rock your machine a little bit to help get things moving too. That looks really good. This is going to be our base. Just removing this to a mixing bowl so I can add all the pungent seasonings now. I'm going to season the mixture with just a little bit of salt. And I'm going to add some onion. These are seasonings that are typical in a traditional tuna salad, but by replacing the tuna with soaked nuts and seeds, I can still get a very similar taste by using the same seasonings I would use. Just added a little bit of minced celery, finely chopped celery, and finally a little bit of minced, finely chopped parsley. That's going to give some nice color. And I'll go ahead and mix this with my spatula to incorporate it. When you're mixing with a spatula, rather than just stirring the way you might stir with a spoon, we really want to incorporate these seasonings in. So I'm folding the mixture over and then patting it down. And that's going to get everything very thoroughly mixed. This looks kind of like tuna salad, doesn't it? So that's our Not Tuna Pâté, a really nice hearty dish that you could just have with some cut up vegetable sticks for a snack or a lunch anytime. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in a little Tupperware container so that I can take it with me in my lunch bag. We'll save the rest of this to do some fun things with a little bit later on. Now I'm going to make some cut-up vegetable sticks, also called crudités in French, and we're going to have that with the Not Tuna Pâté. It's going to be a great finger food. So I'll begin with some cucumber. You can use any vegetables for your cut-up veggie sticks. Might be cucumber, celery, carrots, red bell pepper. The important thing is how I'm going to cut this cucumber. First, I'm going to cut it in half so that I can remove the seeds. I do want to get the seeds out of here, because it's not always pleasing to bite into seeds when you're eating vegetables. So I'll just remove those. I'm just using a spoon to take out some of those seeds. Do the other half here. And what I want to do is cut this cucumber into chip shapes. and I want to make sure that each chip is bite-sized. One thing that I've never liked about party platters of cut up vegetables is when the sticks are really long, because then once you dip and you take a bite out of it, you're out of dip and you don't really want to double dip. So I'm going to make these chip shapes small enough that I can just dip it once and have a bite. So I'm cutting at an angle, and this first piece I could either eat myself or just save in my juice scrap bowl. And now that I've got a nice angled cut, I'm just going to follow that same line and continue cutting down and through, making chip shapes. So these are big enough to be substantial, but not so big that I'm going to have to dip several times. And the smaller you make your angle, the smaller the chip will be. I'm going to go ahead and add these to my platter. I have a platter here with a few other vegetables in chip shapes. Here you can see some carrots that I've cut exactly the same way, just on an angle, and some celery that I cut on an angle. So rather than the long sticks, we have some bite-sized pieces. So let me go ahead and add the cucumber to this platter. Any pieces that don't turn out visually exactly the way you want, of course if it's just you, you could go ahead and add them, or you can just save them in a juice bowl and put them in your juice the next morning. This platter is looking really colorful. I want to complete it with a couple of more veggies. I'm going to add some broccoli, and I want to make nice small florets that are bite-sized. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to begin by cutting off a little bit of the tougher part of the stalk, which I don't want for my platter, but which I will save in my juice bowl. Then for the upper part of the stalk, which is a little more tender, I can make those angled cuts and just add them right to my platter, like chips. And now for the florets, to separate them, I'm going to use a smaller knife, a paring knife, but you could also use your chef's knife. And I'm going to cut the broccoli from the stalk and down, because if I cut it from the flower part down, it could get kind of crumbly. So I'm just going to separate this into florets by cutting down the stalk, but not all the way, and then I just pull it apart, and then you don't get those crumbles. All right, and these are still a little bit large for me, so let me go ahead and just cut off a little bit there. We'll add a few florets to this platter. And I'll finish this platter off with some cherry tomatoes, which are already bite-sized. You just pick one up and dip it in the Not Tuna Pâté. So this is a really nice, colorful platter that you could take to any party, but it's also great to just have for a lunch on the go. So I'm going to go ahead and add some of these crudités, or cut up vegetables, right to another container so I can take it with me for lunch. I've got some red bell pepper here too that was just cut into similar chip shapes as the other vegetables. I'm going to grab my lunch bag, and everything's going to fit really nicely in here. Remember that soup? I'm going to drink that as my first course. And then I've got some cut up veggies, crudité, with some delicious Not Tuna Pâté, and that is going to make a really filling, easy to eat lunch on the go that I can enjoy anytime. Now that's healthy fast food that anyone can make, including you.